I don't take the late train anymore, not after what happened that night. It was late and I was exhausted. I just wanted to get home. When the last train finally arrived, I stepped on without thinking twice. The doors closed behind me with a dull thud, sealing me inside. That's when I noticed how empty it was. Row after row of vacant seats stretched in front of me, except for the last row. 3 people sat together at the very back. It struck me as odd. Why would they sit so close when the entire carriage was empty? I ignored it. I'm not the kind of person who likes sitting near strangers, so I took a seat a few rows ahead of them. As the train lurched forward, I pulled out my book and tried to relax. But something felt off. I don't know why, but I looked up, and that's when I saw her. A woman, sitting in the middle of the trio, staring at me. Her eyes were wide, too wide, unblinking. Her face was pale, expressionless, like a mannequin that had never been alive in the first place. I looked away, my heart pounding. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe she was just zoned out, lost in thought. I forced myself to focus on my book, but I could feel it, the weight of her gaze. I looked up again. She was still staring. The train rattled through the tunnels, the overhead lights flickering, casting shadows that made her look even more lifeless. I swallowed hard, gripping my book so tightly my knuckles turned white. And then, the train stopped. A man stepped on. He looked around the nearly empty carriage, scanning the rows of seats. Then his eyes landed on me. He hesitated. Then, deliberately, he walked over and sat down right next to me. Leaning in close, he whispered, "If you know what's good for you, get off at the next stop, with me." Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I didn't move. I just sat there frozen until the train slowed again. The doors opened. I stood up. So did he. Together we stepped onto the platform. The doors slid shut behind us, and the train rumbled away into the dark. I turned to the man, my voice shaking. What? What was that about? His face was pale, his expression grim. "I didn't mean to scare you," he said, "but the woman sitting across from you was dead. The 2 men on either side of her were propping her up." They warned me not to ask about the station. I didn't listen. I first saw it late at night, half awake as the train crawled along the tracks. The platform passed by slowly, cracked concrete, broken windows, and a station sign too faded to read. For just a second, I thought I saw someone standing near the edge, still as a statue. By morning, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. I asked one of the train staff about the station. He wouldn't even look at me. "Nothing important," he muttered. I should have left it there. But I asked again. This time he grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise. His voice was low and shaking. "Let it be." At the next stop, I got off. I don't know why. Curiosity maybe. Stupidity, definitely. The walk along the tracks felt wrong from the start. Too quiet, like the whole world was holding its breath. I found crosses hammered into the ground along the way. No names, just weathered wood half sunk into the dirt. I almost turned back. I should have. But then the station came into view. It was worse up close, like something pretending to be a building. The wood was too warped, the windows too black. The air smelled like rain, though the ground was dry. I stepped onto the platform, and the whole thing seemed to lean under my weight. Then I saw them. Shadows behind the glass, moving without sound. Watching. A train whistle echoed through the trees, long and low. The rails began to tremble beneath my feet. I backed away, heart hammering in my chest. But my legs felt heavy, like the ground itself was holding me there. They wanted me to wait. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen. The train's light grew brighter through the fog. I could feel it coming, the same way you feel a storm in your bones. I forced my legs to move, one step at first, then another, until I was running. I didn't stop until I saw the lights of the next station. By the time I made it back to the train, the same conductor found me, pale, sweating, out of breath. He didn't ask where I'd been. He just looked me up and down, then nodded like he already knew. "You're lucky," he said. "It doesn't let everyone leave." I never asked about the station again, but sometimes, when the train slows down at night, I see shapes standing on the platform, waiting. I always look away.